I am going to be walking through chart number 3 on the Begin the Beginning shawl, and I will put a link in the comments to the full pattern. But I did want to go ahead and walk through some of the abbreviations and the specifics of this chart, especially if you are new to chart reading to work your lace pattern. There's quite a bit going on in this chart, so I just wanted to take you through that. So I am just going to do the pattern repeat for this, so you'll notice on a lot of lace patterns, and this one as well, you've got a square that is darker, and you are going to be repeating what's inside that square several times, and that's what's going to give you the repeating lace pattern across. So I'm going to do one lace repeat of the kind of the row in the chart that the most is happening in. So this is a cable row. You've got single yarn overs and SSKs, and you've got double yarn overs and SSSKs, and then knit 2 together and knit 3 together. So I'm always going to recommend when you're working a chart to block off like I have done here, so that you can really clearly see what row you are working. And do always make sure that you block off above what you've done, because being able to see how your lace is sitting on top of the lace that has already happened on your needles is really useful. And so you don't want to block off what has happened underneath, because then you're losing all of that useful information. So again, that pattern repeat, I'm going to start right here. And so it begins with a yarn over. So I do a yarn over, and then I'm going to do a cable 4 front. And you are going to take a cable 4 front is worked over 4 stitches. You're going to take 2 of the stitches off your needles. You can put them on a cable needle if you want to, or you can just let them sit in the air, whatever works for you. And you are going to knit 2 stitches. So you take half the number of stitches off your needle. You knit half the number of stitches. You put half the stitches that you took off, the 2 stitches that you took off your needle, you put them back onto your left hand needle, and then you knit those 2 stitches. So that's a cable 4 front. And I just did that without a cable needle, which is pretty unusual. Generally, you would put those stitches onto a cable needle. I find it easy enough when I'm doing a small cable twist like that to just go ahead and do it without the cable needle. It's one less thing for me to keep track of. So I am then going to do a yarn over and an SSK. So we do a yarn over, wrap the yarn around your needle, and then an SSK, I put my needle in as if to knit and slip it, needle in as if to knit and slip it, and I take this needle and I go through the front of those 2 stitches that I just slipped. And now my needles are kind of set up like to do a knit 2 together with my right hand needle coming out underneath, and so I'm just going to wrap my yarn around and pull it through just like if I was doing a knit 2 together, and then those 2 slide off into the air. And you'll notice the direction that this kind of leans a little. It looks different. An SSK leans in a different direction than a knit 2 together, which is why you do one instead of the other. Then our pattern is telling us to do 2 yarn overs right next to each other. And so we are going to wrap the yarn around 1 time like a yarn over, and then we're going to wrap the yarn around a 2nd time like a yarn over. So we have 2 yarn overs immediately next to each other. Again, this is a little bit unusual. This is not a super common thing that you would do in knitting, but it's going to create a larger hole, so a different look in your lace piece. The next line after the 2 yarn overs immediately next to each other is an SSSK. So 3 slips this time. 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to put my needle back through the front of all 3 of those. So it's worked identically to the SSK. You just are doing 1 extra slip. Get my needle through there. And again, my right hand needle is poking out the back, so I'm just going to wrap my yarn around and pull that yarn through all 3 loops on my needle, and then slide all 3 off into the air. So that's an SSSK. Then my pattern is having me do a knit 3 together. So I'm going to take 1, 2, 3 stitches and knit those 3 stitches together. So my SSSK and my knit 3 together create a very rapid decrease right in the center there. And then I'm going to do 2 more yarn overs immediately next to each other and a knit 2 together again. So 2 yarn overs right next to each other, a double yarn over, and then I'm going to do a knit 2 together. And so that is one lace repeat of this shawl to create the beginning of the edging stitch. So I will show you on the completed shawl what that looks like. I'll move my pattern out of the way so you can see it on a clean background here. So it is creating this look right here. So you've got this section where you're having your larger double yarn overs and then your smaller just single yarn overs. And the shaping where you're doing a lot of decreases in the center is what's going to give you the scallop look on this edge. The only other trick with this pattern is when you're on your way back. So once you have completed the round all the way around and you're coming back on this row, when you get to the double yarn over section here, and I am just going to slide across so that you can see what this is going to look like. So when you get to the double yarn over on your needle, so you're knitting around on the following round, and your chart is going to tell you to do this as well, you are going to knit the first of that double yarn over just like a standard knit stitch. You're going to knit that first part, and then you've got the second yarn over there. Don't push both yarn overs off your needle at the same time. Instead, bring your yarn to the front of your work like you're getting ready to do a purl stitch, and purl that second of your double yarn overs. And that is going to create your large hole there, and you're going to have 2 stitches on your needle for the double yarn over. So you have 2 loops on your needle where you wrapped the double yarn over across. You have 2 loops on your needle here. When you've completed, you knit the first one and purl the second one. You should still have 2 loops on your needle. We're not turning the double yarn over into just 1 stitch. And that is going to be shown on your chart. Anytime you've got a double yarn over, on the following row, it tells you the blank box is to knit every stitch, and then the P in the box means to purl it. So you are going to knit 1 stitch of the double yarn over and then purl the second one. And the chart is going to remind you of that every time. So that is how you are going to begin working chart number 3.